Hey everyone, welcome to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we're going to be partaking in Final Standings Friday, where we analyze the deck of the week and see how it performed for me. And today's contender is going to be Gardevoir EX. I'm going to have a gameplay up in the background so that way there's no boring screen. And as I'm talking about the deck, I'll show screen graphs as to list so that way you guys can see what I'm talking about when discussing it. When it comes down to it, Gardevoir EX is a very fun deck to pilot. It's filled with big damage, tons of draw, and there's also plenty of comeback potential. But the only issue that I see with Gardevoir EX is that sometimes it can lose to itself. There have been plenty of games where I've played, and if I don't open things like VIP Pass or more than 2 Ralts, especially when going second, it becomes really difficult to come back. Now I know that I said that the deck has good comeback potential, and I can hear it in the comments now, but I'm more meaning in the later game scenarios as opposed to the early game ones. Within this week's testing of Gardevoir, I had plenty of time to really sit back and take the deck in, and as for how and where I played it, I went to a local league challenge for the first time in quite a bit of time, and the Gardevoir list that I decided to pilot in the 28-person event is right here. Now as you can see, I decided to play Serena in my list. I really like Serena as a card in order to discard energy as well as draw if I'm not seeing Curlias and such. And so going into this event, I felt pretty okay with my choice of deck. Now I have played in plenty of tournaments and I've done quite well in a majority of them, but that's when I've been testing for hours on end and keeping up with the meta. So I knew that I was going to feel a bit rusty coming into the event due to the nature of not playing in so long. And this event actually took place on Monday, April 24th and consisted of 5 rounds. Now getting into my rounds, my first round was against the dreaded Dialga V-Star deck, being paired with Magnezone that lets you accelerate energy, and with Dialga V-Star it can actually attack for 2 turns in a row providing the energy is attached, and Dialga has access to its V-Star attack. I'm posting pictures on the screen as you guys can see, just so that way you guys can keep up and know what the cards are. Now going into this matchup, I knew that I was going to have to go for a turn 2 Gardevoir if I wanted to keep up. Now mind you, my list plays 2 Rare Candy as opposed to 3, so a turn 2 isn't as likely as it would be with 3 Rare Candy. On top of that, I lost the coin flip and was forced to go second, and my opponent being my friend, he was fun to play against. However, with him getting the turn 2 Magnezone as well as turn 2 Dialga V-Star, it was over before it began, and he was able to take 3 prizes in the back-to-back turns on a Mew and a Zacian, and I couldn't really recover. Now as you saw on the list, it plays 20 energy, so most of the time they're going to be hitting Magnezone and be able to attach as many energy as they'd like. Now going back into it, for the second round, I was paired against another friend, and I was paired against the deck that I actually featured on Trash Deck Thursday this past week, Darkrai V-Star. Now being a pilot of anything Darkrai in years past, I knew exactly what to expect. Tons of damage, tons of draw, and also the big factor that I had to deal with, weakness. I knew going into this matchup it would be tough, and on top of that I lost the coin flip once again. I didn't have the best hand. However, my opponent dead drew for the first few turns and I was able to capitalize, especially with a late game play being Sky Seal Stone on Zacian for 3 prizes on a Darkrai V-Star. So my record at this point is 1-1, and my round 3 was against a Lugia single strike list that ran Urshifu VMAX. This game is quite fun and close. I set up as normal, took my prizes, and eventually got down to 1 prize. However, my opponent managed to draw a Thornton off of my Judge the previous turn, as well as discard my Sinnoh Temple in order to bring out a hard-hitting 290 damage with Tyranitar V. I ended up losing the game, and at this point I was 1-2. Now my round 4, I played against a Solrock Lunatone list that played Mewtwo V-Star. This was scary as Mewtwo V-Star can hit the bench and also do a ton of damage. However, Manaphy as well as Collapse Stadium allowed me to pull through and take advantage of the limited plays my opponent could make, especially due to not having the extra bench space. And Sky's Seal Stone was also huge as it took 3 prizes and allowed for 3 basic Pokemon to be knocked out that were 1 prizes as opposed to 4. At this point, I am 2-2, And my final round was against another friend of mine, and he was playing Gardevoir EX as well. To sum it up, the game was pretty close, but me having to deal with collapsed stadium early on and limited bench space made it really difficult to keep acceleration and attackers on the board. Not to mention, he was able to use Cresselia to KO one of my Curlias, which put me behind on an attacker and thus had me go downhill from there. I did eventually end up with one prize, but being on the back burner to Roxanne and Collapse Stadium, it made it really difficult. I ended up finishing the event 2-3, which wasn't by any means impressive, but it allowed me to get back into the grind of Pokemon. I also got to see a ton of friends and be able to enjoy the deck myself. As I said, Gardevoir's a strong deck when it sets up, but the drawback is that there's so many parts that are necessary for setting up that not seeing them can cause a ton of problems. I think I won one dice roll as well over the course of 5 games, so if I had any advice for playing Gardevoir, it would be definitely to flip better. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to smash that thumbs up button and subscribe and turn on post notifications. Also be on the lookout for next week Meta Monday, as we're going to take a look at Miraidon EX being paired with Regieleki VMAX for huge damage, and seeing how it fares in a field dominated by Gardevoir and Urshifu. Enjoy the rest of the gameplay in the background, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.